So the class of 2023 is full of recruiting battles that we are going to have to keep up with because they will have major impacts, but one reigns supreme because it's not every day that the number one player in the nation, who's the number one quarterback in the nation, also has the last name Manning, a last name that carries so much respect in football circles. This is a battle we're going to have to watch because the eyes of the college football world are going to be thrust upon it, and deservedly so. Arch Manning has recently had a top four of Georgia, Alabama, Texas, and Ole Miss, but according to numerous reports from various sources, Arch Manning could be down to two schools, the Texas Longhorns and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Now, it is important to note that I have not seen anything official from Arch Manning, so for the purposes of this video, we are going to talk about all schools involved, but because of that, before we break this down, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, Y for yes, N for no. Do you believe the final two schools will ultimately be Texas and Alabama? And let me know what you're thinking. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification. I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoy the content, like and comment down below. Those interactions are massive to content creators such as myself in both getting picked up and maintained by the YouTube algorithm. But with all that being said, let's hop right into this because we have a lot to discuss. Because this is going to be an intriguing battle, and like I said in the intro, though a report has come out that Arch Manning is down to his final two, being Texas and Alabama, I've not seen anything official from Arch Manning, so we are going to talk about all four schools that were last involved the last time Arch Manning had officially spoke about the situation. But we will start with the two schools named in the new report, and we will begin with the Alabama Crimson Tide. And look, Alabama has been on a recent tear on the offensive side of the ball. The Alabama Crimson Tide is an offer that you can never take lightly. If you are recruiting against Alabama and you see that they have offered a prospect that you want, you know you're in for a battle. Because every recruiting class that Nick Saban has had has left with a national championship ring. And when we look at the level of development that Alabama has been able to uphold for years, it's insane what they are able to do, getting these top-level recruits in and then putting them into the NFL in bunches of bunches. I mean, it's really impressive stuff. But when we really zero in to Arch Manning in this process, it would make sense. Alabama can put playmakers around him, both from the offensive line position to the wide receiver position and the running back position, all of which Alabama recruits very well. And if we look at recent classes, the recent wide receiver hauls add a ton of speed to the playmaking capabilities of the wide receiver room and the overall offensive capacity of the Crimson Tide. But it's all for nothing if you don't have an offensive line that's able to provide protection, to which Alabama has recruited very well. And if there are Texas fans watching right now and you're saying, okay, well, part of the offensive success for the Crimson Tide came under Steve Sarkisian, you're not wrong, and you're not going to find much pushback from me. Sark fielded a top-level offense at Alabama, and it was an offense that was dangerous, and that's an understatement. However, I would push back and say that Alabama has had sustained quarterback success and offensive success outside of Steve Sarkisian, whether we're talking about Mike Locksley, Brian DeBall, Bill O'Brien, or Lane Kiffin. The Alabama offense has become a part of the cogwheel that is Alabama. Much like the defense, now the offense is going, and it's just part of this factory that the Crimson Tide have become. So Arch Manning to Alabama would make sense, especially when you look and Bryce Young just won the Heisman Trophy and they competed for a national championship, and conventional wisdom says they'll probably be back very soon. Alabama makes complete sense from that point of view. But now let's talk about the Texas Longhorns, because it's not like they have nothing to offer either. A lot makes sense from that perspective as well. The Texas Longhorns have a head coach who's an offensive-minded guy, and not only an offensive-minded guy, but an individual who's had success at the quarterback position in Steve Sarkisian. Not only that, but the Texas Longhorns were one of two teams that was able to add in a top 10 recruiting class and a top 10 class through transfer portal acquisitions, something that's big for Steve Sarkisian and company when they look to hit the ground running in year two. Now, ultimately, the Texas Longhorns may not have had the year they wanted, but if they are after Arch Manning, if they can put together a successful season this year in which the quarterback, whoever that may be, Hudson Card or Quinn Ewers, conventional wisdom dictates it'll probably be Quinn Ewers, but the job must be won. It's not going to be given. If they can go out there and have a more successful season and it looks like the foundation is being laid and they have successful quarterback play, that could be a major recruiting pitch for Steve Sarkisian and company. But we haven't even talked about what could be the biggest recruiting chip for Steve Sarkisian and company, and that's rumors that the Texas Longhorns are looking to add in David Cutcliffe to the Longhorns staff, an individual who not only has a great relationship with the Manning family, but who coached Peyton and Eli. So that would be a massive win for the Texas Longhorns. So when you look at it holistically, Texas is a team that may not have been where they wanted to be this past year, but if they can continue improving, if they can lay the foundation and have successful quarterback play, they can still pull a top-level quarterback. Xavier Worthy, a freshman wide receiver, just had a phenomenal year, and they've been able to get other offensive playmakers. Right now, it's just about the offensive line, to which they just got in an absolute haul from recruiting in that department. It'll take some time, but there is reason to be excited. It's now just about seeing results being put onto the field. But it's not just Texas and Alabama, even though that report says that those are the two teams that look to be pulling out in front. We also need to keep an eye on Ole Miss and Georgia. And Ole Miss is a team that has so much familiarity in their relationship with the Mannings. When you look at the history, Arch Manning's grandfather played there. His uncle played there. It's an institution that has been synonymous with Manning, outside of Peyton, obviously, going to Tennessee. But because of that, many individuals have thought that Ole Miss stands a great chance to land Arch Manning. And certainly, whenever you have that deep of a relationship with an institution, it helps. But whenever the head coach of that institution is Lane Kiffin, an offensive-minded guy who's had success with quarterbacks, it helps even more. Because if Lane Kiffin can continue showing the high-powered offense that Ole Miss has been putting on display, that in and of itself is a major recruiting chip. It's going to be interesting to see the season Lane Kiffin and company have this upcoming year. I think that right there will be big in the process of landing Arch Manning. But ultimately, the relationships established and the individual at the helm of Ole Miss makes it so it's a destination that we must keep an eye on. Ole Miss just brought in Jackson Dart. That's a situation we have to watch, because if Jackson Dart goes out there and has instant success, you already know Lane Kiffin's going to be utilizing that as a pitch. And finally, the Georgia Bulldogs, the team coming off of a national championship. And Georgia has been able to recruit the quarterback position well. They may not have been able to play the five-star quarterbacks they've had, or they may not have panned out just yet, but they've been able to recruit quarterbacks well at the University of Georgia. They just came off of a national championship, which is going to excite recruits, and naturally it would. I put myself in a recruit's shoes, and if a coach sat down in front of me that had a new national championship ring, that would raise my eyebrows. Georgia recruits all the positions on the football field at an extremely high level. It seems like it's a constant back and forth between Georgia and Alabama for the top recruiting class in the nation, and that matters to these high-level quarterbacks. You know, I constantly talk about the effect a top-level quarterback can have on your class, and it's absolutely true. Guys want to come play with top-level quarterbacks, but the opposite is also true. If you have a solid recruiting class, and you've had solid recruiting classes, top-level quarterbacks are going to want to come play for you because there's stability in the talent around them, and they have faith in the pieces you can place around them to not only be successful, but to help them be successful. And that right there is a major pitch. So at the end of the day, this is going to be very interesting. Reports saying that Arch Manning is down to Texas and Alabama. And when I look at the situation, both of those institutions make sense. Alabama's had a high-powered offense, and quarterbacks have been having a ton of success under various offensive coordinators, and they have the last Heisman Trophy winner. When you look at that, it's hard to turn down that pitch, but Texas, having Steve Sarkisian, getting Quinn Ewers in, if they can start turning it around, that would be an intriguing pitch in and of itself. Even though that report says that the final two schools are Texas and Alabama, I haven't seen Arch Manning say it himself, so we cannot count out Ole Miss and we cannot count out Georgia. Georgia recruiting every position on the football field extremely well. Having the ability to put talent around one of these top-level quarterbacks is going to be massive, and Ole Miss carrying so many relationships and ultimately having Lane Kiffin. This is going to be an insanely fun battle to watch, but I need to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, let me know what you're thinking. That's it. See ya.